Good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching. My special guest for today's episode, we've had a bit of a ride already, but it's Belindé Schreuder over in South Africa. Belindé, how did I go with your name? Was that okay?
That was perfect, Adrian.
How is, for people watching who aren't in South Africa, we're running a little bit late. I had a technical difficulty. You had some load shedding issues. Can you just describe to our international audience what exactly load shedding is? Because they may not know.
Okay, so load shedding is literally where portions of the country's power is cut for a certain amount of time. So it's usually like 2 hours, and it differs from like state to like little towns. So I had load shedding from 8 to 10 this morning. My mother, for instance, would have load shedding from 10 to 12. So it's literally just the country shutting off everyone's power.
And what exactly did you have to do to get ready for this interview? You said you had like power banks and what else?
Yeah, so I woke up super early, like at 5, to, kind of curl my hair, get ready, and all of that before load shedding came. I
Oh
have
no.
power banks everywhere. My phone is charging on one, the ring light is currently on one, and then I have a light at the back who's also currently on a power bank. So
Can you imagine if after all you went to all that trouble that we weren't able to jump on? I'd feel terrible. You'd probably feel terrible too.
you know what? Things happen, so it's okay.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few people in South Africa, and they talk about resiliency quite often, and that you guys just have to do whatever it takes. So I think you have the most power banks of anyone I've ever interviewed, and we probably should get to it before the power banks die and you just disappear and leave me by myself. But as the title beneath you says, you're a Miss International South Africa finalist. And also, obviously, you've done pageants before. So why don't we start with your pageant history, Belindé? How did you get into the crazy world of pageantry to begin with?
So it's actually a very funny story. So if you ask my mom or you ask my aunt, they'll just say that I was born to be on stage and born to be in the industry. So I still remember very vividly. I was about 3 years old, and we were at like a flea market at one of these tiny little strip mall type of things, and
Mhm.
they had a competition, and I asked to quickly go to the bathroom. And the next moment, a lady with like big bushy curly hair came up to my mom and she's like, "Listen, do you have a little blonde girl?" And she's like, "Yes, why? What's up? What happened?" And she's like, "No, nothing's wrong. Can you maybe please just come and get your child off of this stage? We're trying to have a modeling competition." So what happened is every single time they announced like a new contestant to go on stage, I would first walk and do whatever I wanted to, and then get off, and then only the contestant would walk. So I have been in the industry ever since I was 3. So that marks 23 years this year, which is an incredible long time. I've been very fortunate enough to represent our country 7 times internationally, which is
Wow.
incredible. Yeah,
7 times.
yeah. And
So I should just ask, are you actually in Miss International South Africa then, or are you just going to like walk on the stage like you did when you were 3 years old?
you know what, Adrian? At this stage, I can't answer that question, but please do ask me after October, and then I can tell you.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to check because it sounds like you hogged the limelight from all those other girls. So give us a rundown. You said 7 times. Are you able to remember all 7 times? That'll be difficult.
So I actually do, because it's all in my bucket list countries, which is, I don't think anyone can ever say that, where they had the opportunity to represent their country in their bucket list countries. So that's
Oh
pretty
wow.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
can you name
my
the 7?
Yeah, so my first one was in Italy. It was Ragazza Cinema. Then it was in Turkey for Miss Seven Continents.
Hmm.
Then it was in Taiwan, Queen of Brilliancy. It was in Macau for World Supermodel, which I actually won. Then it was Ecuador for Miss United Continents, Poland for Miss Supranational, and then Venezuela for Miss Grand.
Those are some very, very big titles you just named there. Super in Poland. I'm just trying to remember who the Australian girl that we had over there. Were you there? I think our Australian girl was Alexandra
Maddie,
Wallace.
Maddie Madison
Madison
was that
Clare.
year. Yes.
Madison Clare Sloan, right? I'm getting my years mixed up. And then was it Venezuela, did you say, for Grand?
Yes.
What was that like? Venezuela is pageant mad. I just got to ask, like, were you swarmed by people? Did you need police? What was it like?
So, weeks leading up to the competition, the media had this big thing where they had riots in the country for unemployment rates and
Right.
poverty in the country and all of that. And the media actually urged the girls not to come and participate. And I just sat back and I said, you know what? This is exactly what Miss Grand stands for, and that is stop the war and violence. So if I would like to be the winner, why would I back out of a country who is currently in war? And I
Mm.
actually did my research around it. And South Africa, Johannesburg, where I live, and then Venezuela is on the top 4 top most dangerous countries in the world. So I just thought, you know what, if I can survive in South Africa and in Johannesburg, then I can survive in Venezuela as well. But with that being said, they did take amazing care of the girls. We had the military outside of our hotel rooms,
Oh,
like
wow.
outside of the hotel. We had police escorts everywhere we went. And yes, we were bombarded by people. Our prelims, there were 20,000 people in the stadium. And then for finals, there were
20,000.
40,000 people. Yeah, it was incredible.
How big was the stadium? Was it like a football stadium or a concert hall or something? It must have been
Some,
huge.
something like that. It was gigantic.
Wow. I'd never heard of any pageant, not even Universe, having that many. What was the atmosphere like? You walk on stage in front of 20,000 people.
I wish I can describe that feeling because you can literally feel the rumble
Mm,
of the people screaming and shouting and clapping hands and stomping literally on the stage. So you can feel it from your shoes all
yeah.
the way through to your entire body. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
That must have been quite a feeling. Must have been like being a rock star.
Well, I just told myself, you know what? If this is what it feels like to be one of those celebrities like Lincoln Park, who have so many thousands of people there, then I am just going to take everything in, and that's exactly what I did.
So you weren't nervous at all walking in front of that many people? Was it just another walk in the park? All good?
Well, it's a catch-22 situation because I was actually terribly ill, and no one
Oh,
actually knows this.
right.
So if you come from South Africa and you go to Venezuela, you have to have a yellow fever injection.
Hmm.
And I got that about 2 weeks before I left because that was the recommended time. And I got my injection and I went over, and about a week and a half into competition, I started to get sick. I had a sinus infection like I've never had in my life before. And it's actually so funny if you go and watch back the videos and the lives of that night, you'll actually hear that I'm sick. So I was standing on stage going, Belindé Schreuder, Miss Grand South Africa. And now looking back, I'm like, why? What were you thinking? Like, isn't there anything you could have done to get that weird gasping sound out of your voice? But yeah. It's an
There's
experience.
there's nothing you can do when your sinuses are all blocked up. You're probably lucky that you didn't walk up on stage and just faint and collapse.
Or had like a sneeze or something. Yeah.
Oh, all over the microphone. That would have just been perfect. Well, you would have been remembered for all the wrong reasons. So obviously, you've got what we would say a storied pageant history. Some very, very big pageants, some of the biggest in the world. And obviously, you have a lot of free time because you decided to enter another one. So, or you hate free time, one or the other. So, what made you decide to enter Miss International South Africa?
So, Adrian, entering competitions is more than just entering competitions. And I've entered some of the biggest ones because I thought that is where I needed to be to make a
Mm.
difference. For instance, supranational and grand, I thought I had to reshape myself and what I stand for to fit into a competition to actually make it. And I sat down with a very good friend, just having a conversation about pageants and about role models. And I actually sat back and I realized that I should stop changing me, who I am, and what I stand for, and my passions for a modeling competition. And I think that is what is so great about Miss International is they give girls the opportunity to empower within their platforms what they stand for.
Yeah.
And the base of that all is international understanding. And I think that is just 110% who I am and what I stand for.
So, on that note, let me ask you, because if you were lucky enough to represent your country again, I'm sure you'd be asked how you would describe South Africa to an international audience. So, what are the things when someone says, describe to me South Africa, or what are you most proud of as a South African? What are some of the things that come to mind?
So, first of all, what comes to mind is a culture diversity.
Mm,
We literally have 11 official languages in our country, and each of them represent a different culture with different foods and different thinking, and bringing all that together, you get South Africa.
mm,
But what makes me most proud of my country is the fact that we are learning from our past mistakes. So, for instance, if you look at America, they have this president book where all the presidents have written down what was the biggest thing that happened during their presidency and how did they handle that. And then, the new presidents can learn out of that and
yeah,
try not to make the same mistakes.
yeah.
Where we as South Africa, we don't have that. But we can look back at our history and what worked and what didn't work, and then we can start building on that.
Um, that you just mentioned food, and
Yeah.
it seems to me that every time I do a pageant interview, we have to talk about food. Can you give me any South African, in particular, South African foods?
Okay. Anything specific?
No, I'm just, when people think about Australia, it's Vegemite and Tim Tams. So when you go overseas, if you take any food and that food had to represent South Africa, what would you take over?
Biltong.
Oh, of course. You know,
Biltong,
I, I
without a doubt.
I don't think I've actually ever had that. Do you like it?
I personally love biltong. So the interesting thing is, I actually halfway partly grew up on a farm. So I grew up with biltong. And to this day, I even have some in my fridge currently. So I live by biltong.
It's so funny you actually mentioned that because I just remembered I have like a biltong store like not 10 minutes drive away from me. So I should actually go and try that sometime. Now, you've got a question here from Davina, which is a good question. We sort of covered it, but we'll go over it again. Why do you want to win this pageant? And what will you do if you win the title?
So I want to win Miss International South Africa because it will give me a bigger platform to raise my concerns and my voice about conservation. So conservation is especially big in South Africa, but I think it is something that we all actually need to start caring about,
Mm.
because we all come from the earth, and when we pass on, we become the earth again, and that becomes the feed for the next generation. So that is why I would like to win then Miss International South Africa. And what I'll do with the title is to use the platform to speak at bigger crowds, get more people involved and aware of the conservation efforts we have in South Africa.
Let's dig into that, because you mentioned in your email to me when I asked for talking points, you mentioned conservation, and in particular your work with elephants. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's even in your bio somewhere. So how do elephants come into the picture, and what sort of work do you do with them?
So when I won my competition in Macau, my mom actually organized this surprise photo shoot for me with the elephants. Now, I was scared. I wanted to say something else, but let's go with I was terrified the moment I saw the elephants. You see them in the wild and you see them in pictures and all of that, and you're like, oh, great, that's an elephant. And then the next moment, you need to stand next to this 3-4 meter high animal, and you need to be calm and collective. And I actually started crying standing next to this elephant. I was so scared. And the owner, Sean, he came up to me and he started talking to me, and he's like, listen, don't worry about them, just focus on me. And he just calmed me down completely. And we had about a 4-hour shoot. We were hoping for like 10 to 15 photos, because elephants are very, unreliable. You don't know if they're going to lie still, if they're going to do what you want them to do,
Right.
and
Okay.
all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, I think we ended up with 5,000 photos and like 50 usable photos. So that was absolutely incredible. And after my shoot, I sat down with the owner and I'm like, listen, I absolutely love what you do here. Is there by any chance, how can I get involved in this? Raise awareness, marketing, all of that. And he said, yeah, you know what, we have this and this and that and that, but this is basically what we do. And thank you for the mention and all of that. We'll see what we can do then for you. And about a week and a half later, he gives me a call. He's like, listen, so we have a walk for elephants. You walk about 5 kilometers with them in the bush, and this is all for educational purposes. And we would like you to be involved. And ever since then, I've been involved, raising awareness, educating people on conservation and the need for the wild animals in the wild.
What is it like working with elephants or posing with elephants? I mean, they say in TV the two things you don't want to work with, one is children and one is animals. So what is it like working with an elephant?
Adrian, I don't have the words to describe to you what it feels like standing or working with this 3-4 ton elephant, and he is as gentle as he can possibly be. So my favorite elephant is Tushuru. Now he doesn't have like the front part of his trunk, so that
Right.
now I'm trying to get the English word for it. The pinches. So
Yeah.
he doesn't have that. He was given to Sean like that. But
Right.
he has taught himself how he can pick up things from the floor. So, for instance, if you throw him a cap, he'll literally use his front legs to scoop it onto his trunk, and then he'll make like a tiny bucket, and then he'll pass it to you. And that's the same about how he eats. If you give him pellets, it's absolutely incredible. They're very, very intelligent animals.
And how endangered are they endangered in South Africa? I mean, I've heard stories about rhinoceroses, but are elephants endangered in South Africa as well?
They were very, very endangered. But currently the population is picking up, which is a good thing. And that's all thanks to education and conservation.
And when you said you walk with elephants, so do the elephants walk with you, or you go for a walk to raise the? Do you take it on a
No, so
lead?
you
Are you
literally
riding on top, or?
well, you can do both. Actually, you can ride on top of them as well. But no, the walk for elephants is you literally walk in between the herd. Um,
Wow.
and what is so great is if, for instance, the guy in the front, the leader, stops, the entire herd will stop, and then all the people will stop with it, and then the herd will work its way through back into the bush, because then they know that this is where they can kind of chill and eat, and then we have the educational talk.
And how when you say herd, how many elephants are we talking about roughly?
Between 7 and 8.
So I imagine you've conquered your fear of elephants then. If you're walking in between 7 or 8 elephants, I imagine you're not crying when you're in between them anymore.
Not anymore, no. I literally just want to run up to them, give them hugs, give them treats, and just, kind of scratch the rough skin and just stay with them and be with them and enjoy nature with them.
So you strike me as, I mean, we've mentioned that at Grand you walked in front of tens of thousands of people, and then you're casually posing with a 3 or 4 ton animal. Are you an adventurous person? A bit of an
Very.
adrenaline junkie? Because you sound like it.
Yeah, I am. I am very adventurous. I think life is very boring if you don't have adventures. So try and have an adventure every single day of your life.
So outside of pageantry, what do you do to have that adventure, to keep yourself busy? Because despite what the public might think, pageant girls actually do have jobs and lives outside of pageantry. So who is Belindé outside of pageantry?
So I actually have my own modeling agency where I teach and train girls within pageants and then the modeling industry as well. And then I am also a makeup artist. So that is also where I get a lot of my adventures from, driving down a gravel road, rushing to do editorial hair and makeup or whatever the day may be. And then I also help my mom here and there with some real estate. And then I am
Oh,
busy planning a new business venture as well.
so you definitely don't like free time then, obviously.
Well, free time, yes and no. I like to keep busy because I think like a busy keeps you busy and keeps you out of trouble. So why not be busy?
You sound like you get bored easily. When it comes to obviously you've got extensive modeling and pageantry experience yourself. So I assume, are you training girls or are you training both boys and
Both.
girls?
Both.
Right. What are some of the tips you give the people you're coaching for modeling? Because I imagine they're coming to you and they want to try and make a name for themselves. So it's not just how to walk or how to dress. It's also got to be some part of how to survive in the industry, because it can be it is a very competitive industry. It can be pretty cutthroat, and sometimes it's not the safest industry. So what's some of the advice you find yourself giving to your clients?
The biggest one I give and that I live by every single day is it's people's opinion about who they think you are.
Hmm.
And a lot of us get so entwined with people's opinions that we think people's opinions is everything and they mean
Yep.
so much to us that we actually forget and we lose our authenticity of who and what we are. And that is the biggest thing I say is don't lose who and what you are because you think people want you to be a certain way. Stay true to who you are, and people will love you for that.
That's good advice. And when it comes to, let's say, the difference between modeling and pageantry, because obviously they have a fair bit in common, but they're also quite different. What advice would you have if someone asks you, well, what's the difference between modeling and pageantry? You know, maybe you've got a model who's considering entering pageantry, or maybe you have a pageant girl that wants to try and break into the modeling industry. From your perspective, working with your clients, what are some of the differences between the modeling and the pageant industries?
So pageantries are a lot more of your girly girls. Someone who has a platform, who literally believes in world peace and wants to enforce it. Where modeling is, you are a coat hanger and you have absolute no say about hair, makeup, what you're wearing, or where you're currently busy shooting. And that is the biggest differences between the two industries. And that's also the most difficult part for people to understand.
Do you find it difficult going between the two? Because from my experience, when you're modeling, as you said, you've got to be a coat hanger. You're there to sell clothes, basically, and you've got to do what you're told. And you can't, well, at least from what I understand, you can't even smile most of the time. You have to, I always wondered why models on the catwalk look so miserable. It's like, oh, they're not allowed to smile because it will take attention away from the clothes. But in pageants, it's completely different. Do you find it difficult to go between the two, or by now is it pretty seamless for yourself?
For me, it's pretty seamless by now. I think it's just years and years of experience with it. But I do realize that a lot of my clients, especially, actually find it easier to transition in between the two. Because with pageantry, you're not really told anything. So you have free will, you can do whatever you want to. Where within the modeling industry, you're kind of told what to do. And I've just actually realized that for most, it's not that difficult to switch between the two.
I guess the two industries complement each other fairly well, don't they? I mean, modeling gives you maybe a bit more, as you said, you're told what to do, so you've given a bit more structure, and then pageantry allows you to be a bit more of yourself. Belindé, just before we go to the close, future plans. You sounded like you have a few future plans. Can you tell us where you see yourself, let's say in a year from now, 5 years from now, God forbid, 10 years from now?
Yeah. So let's go a year from now. I would really like to prepare for then Miss International. So then going to Japan. So having my platforms and everything on a world base. 5 years from now, actually having an international agency. So I would really like to train girls internationally and give them the same platform that modeling and pageantry has given me. And then 10 years from now, just being successful in what I wanted to achieve, achieved all of my goals, and hopefully just travel the world.
That sounds like a plan. Now, just before we go to the final 10 questions, anyone that you want to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey, pageant and otherwise?
Pageants and otherwise. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Everyone plays such a big role in who I am, my growth, and where I'm currently going. So everyone I meet, kind of instilled something different in me. It makes me realize something else. And that just makes me grow and makes me a better person. So I would just like to say thank you to every single one for all of your comments, all of your love, all of your support. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Well, you've come a long way since you were that 3-year-old girl who jumped on the stage when you weren't supposed to. So I guess that really is kind of fate, isn't it? It was meant to be. You just couldn't help yourself. You jumped up on stage. Okay. Well, we'll go to the final 10 questions. Now, you're a little bit lucky or unlucky, depending on which way you look at it, because if you guys at home can't tell, I'm in a bit of a different angle because my computer, before I jumped on with Belindé, she was going through her load shedding issues. My computer wouldn't start, so I'm on my laptop. Now, I've started giving people 1 minute to answer as many of these questions as they can, but I can't get to the timer on my laptop. So we're just going to go through the 10 questions and you don't get any timer. So these are random questions, not particularly anything to do with pageants, but here we go. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Wow. My favorite word. I've actually never thought of that.
You could give us an Afrikaans word if you have a favorite word in Afrikaans. Stumped you. The second question is going to be, what's your least favorite? The second question is going to be, what's your least favorite word? If that helps.
No, not actually.
We'll come back to it.
I don't know what you just did, but I am completely stuck. I'm like,
It's like I've asked you the hardest question in the world. It's just your favorite word. We'll come back to it. Okay. So question 1 is, what's your favorite word? Question 2 is, what's your least favorite word? Question 3, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
What gets me excited is adventures. Like you said, I am a very adventurous person and adrenaline junkie. So anything where I can be my crazy farm self and just have a ball and laugh like this.
Oh, we've just lost Belindé. There we go. Okay. She's back.
So just where I can be myself basically and just have a proper laugh until I cry. That gets me excited.
That sounds good. All right. So that was what turns you on. Question 4 is, what turns you off?
People being rude, people being mean, and people neglecting animals and children. Like, I can't handle that. I literally start crying, and it frustrates me so much because the children and the youth of today is literally our future of tomorrow. So why are you neglecting our future? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Question 5, what sound or noise do you love?
The sound of rain coming down. It's incredible. It's so calming and relaxing, and I absolutely love it.
So weird. I thought you were going to say rain for some reason. I must have I must be psychic. Question 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
Ooh, this scratching sound. Like if you have like a fork against like a chalkboard or like on a plate, that screeching sound, yeah. I hate it. I get goosebumps. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like it.
That high-pitched squeaking sound when you slip the knife along the china, is that not a fan of that? No. I've actually had people who hate that sound so much they start crying when they hear it. It really sets some people off. You wouldn't believe. Oh, wow. Question 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Mind reading, actually. I think it will be so interesting to actually know people's true thoughts and feelings, because in society we have this idea and misconception of what people want to hear and want us to be, that we lose who we are. And I would like to have that power to actually know what people are truly feeling and are truly saying, because I think that way we can actually make a bigger impact in the world.
Question 8, what job or occupation other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Criminology. So be like a behavioral analysis for like the law department. It is such an interesting thing to actually know what made someone do something they did. So I almost want to say half along the lines of like a Criminal Minds type of vibe. I would really like that.
Here's a fun fact for you, Belindé. Out of all the questions I ask, and in terms of which answer is the most common, that is one of the most common answers I get from you pageant girls. Like, job they want, I want to investigate psycho killers, basically. I'm like, I don't know what it says about you pageant girls that you're all fascinated by serial killers, but whatever gets you going, I guess.
I think it's a different mindset, and it's something different that makes you kind of click. Um, Personally, people's feelings and people's reactions has always, kind of interested me. And for me, that's just like a natural course after my communications degree. That will just be like an automatic course for me to go and actually take. But yes, I don't know why pageant girls love serial killers. I don't know.
Someone watching can probably tell me, or maybe you can tell me. I think there was a Netflix show, wasn't there, about a pageant girl who became a serial killer as well? Insatiable, I think it was. I think I didn't watch it. Everyone says you got to watch it. You got to watch it. Apparently, I think it's about a pageant girl who was also who started killing off her competition. So not to give you any ideas, but that's what I hear.
That sounds very interesting. I most definitely will have a look at that. That just sounds very intriguing.
Okay. If people start disappearing at your competition, you didn't hear it here. Question 9. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I think being a doctor or like a nurse. I love people and I love working with people, but I think that just takes a very special, almost want to say breed of people, to literally place someone else's life above your own and take care of them as if they were your own. I take my hats off to nurses and to doctors, but personally, that's not a job I would like to do.
Well, especially after COVID. I mean, they really were the frontline heroes. All right, we have one final question. Before we come to the final question, let's circle back to the first two that stumped you. So, deep breath. Question 1, what is your favorite word?
You know what? I'm just going to take the first word that pops in my head. And at this stage, it is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's it.
Can you spell that for bonus points? I'm joking. Don't worry. No. I was also going to see if you could say it backwards. All right. Well, that's a word. Well, then question 2 was, what was your least favorite word?
There's a word that I always struggle to pronounce, and now the moment that I actually do need the word, it has left my brain for some reason. So let's go with impossible.
What was the other word that you couldn't say? Is that an English word?
Yes.
It's not brewery, is it?
No, it's not brewery.
If you remember that word, you have to tell me what it is at some stage, because I'd be fascinated to know. There are some words that some people just can't say, but I'm sure as soon as we hang up with the audience, you'll remember it right then. That's the way it works.
Most probably.
Anyway, final question.
Yes.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Thank you for using your talents that I have given you to make the world a better place.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, Belindé, we got there. It was a bit of a manic start. You dropped out in the middle of it, but we got towards the end. We got to the end. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for setting up the interview. I really enjoyed it.
That's my pleasure. I should also ask, when are you actually scheduled to compete in Miss International South Africa?
So it is scheduled somewhere in October. We haven't received final dates as of yet.
Okay. Well, best of luck. Hopefully by then it's a little bit warmer. This is something that I found fascinating. I didn't realize South Africa got as cold as I found out it did. What's the temperature like for you guys at the moment where you are?
So currently it's between 5 and 6 degrees.
Oh, that's not too bad. I thought it went can it go below freezing for you guys?
Yeah, so especially where I live, we've hit records of like -4, -5.
Do you like the cold weather?
You know what? If I'm prepared for the cold, I don't mind. But like with load shedding and all of that, we're not best of friends. No.
I don't know how you guys survive sometimes. If it's below freezing and they just turn the power off, that would be brutal. But
Yes.
as I say, you guys are very, very resilient. Okay. Well, Ralph, who's watching over from America, has said good luck for October. Belindé, I will keep you on the line for just a second whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks to everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay, and we will speak to you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.